All right, welcome back to another exciting episode of Yomo, the year of magical learning. And today, can you believe it or not, we're on book 98. So we're two from the century mark. So I'll let Chris introduce the reflection title and then we can get on with it. And hopefully in the next 2 more days, we'll hit the century mark and then we can celebrate.
Yeah, yeah, we are getting close. Today's an interesting day. Today's actually July 13th is the day that my daughter's original due date 2 years ago. So this was an important day that's really kind of kicked off Milestone, a day that really kind of kicked off the Your Magical Learning journey between the time that she passed away and this kind of date. It was more of a coming out of the rubble of the atomic blast, right?
Right.
Like this was a symbolic date for me and for my family and for her in general, because this was when we had all hoped that she would get home from the NICU. That's what they tell you the first couple of days when you get put into the NICU, like always plan to be here at least until your due date and beyond kind of thing. So this was the day that we had kind of carved into our own head as the milestone at the end of our marathon kind of thing, and when she obviously, we never got there to get her physically home, but this was, for me, a big milestone day in general. So, this is a good reminder of the why, and the reason why we're doing all this and why I'm doing all this is, this year of magical learning. It's about her, and it's about living for two. It's about learning and growing and living your values and enduring. So it's a interesting just day to, I just wanted to kick off the conversation with that just because it's something that was top of mind. But onto the book. Actually, Drew, you and I met not too long after that date 2 years ago. So I think that was in August. So we're getting kind of close. It might have been actually late July.
Yeah, somewhere in July where we started, and then you were connecting with David to do some stuff. And then in August, you reach out again and say, "Hey, you want to do some more work in terms of what we're working on." And so that's how it started. So 2 years ago, it's been. I think it's been a fun journey for me. It didn't seem that long for me for whatever reason. I think it was like recently, and then but looking at it, it's 2 years. I mean, physically, it's 2 years.
Yeah, no, it's been fun. We have a long way to go, obviously, but it's good sometimes to just check in a little bit and get a quick
Which
reminder.
is good when you want to have more roads and more journey to enjoy, and then go to the end of it and don't know what to do, how to take the next step.
Right. Exactly.
You don't want it to end, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's the point.
When you're having fun, you don't want it to end. If you don't have fun, then you want it to end. So whatever makes you enjoy life, then I think that's something you want to look forward for a long time to come.
I totally agree. Speaking of having fun, though, onto the reflection for the day. The book for the day is a book called Ignore Everybody and 39 Other Keys to Creativity by the author Hugh MacLeod. Hugh MacLeod this is a really short read, actually. It was good. I enjoyed it. It was really quick, fast, to the point, but impactful. The book is about this struggling young copywriter who's a real person named Hugh. He was living in a YMCA and he started to doodle on the back of business cards while sitting at a bar. So he would just draw these little cartoons and stuff like that on the back of these business cards. Eventually, he just kept doing it while he was working at his normal day-to-day job. He started this popular blog where he would post the cartoons on the back of these business cards. Slowly but surely over time, people started to like him for whatever weird reason. It didn't make any sense at first, but eventually they caught on. And I mean, that wasn't why he ever did it necessarily. Did it because he enjoyed it. And I think he actually says in the book, the only reason he ever started doodling on business cards because that was, it was too impractical for him to carry around like a notebook and a piece of paper all the time to like work and off like so where he was places that he was going. So like business cards were making it easy to him just put in his pocket and he could and do doodling and stuff like that. So but eventually he became commercially successful with this venture, even though that wasn't his goal necessarily. And that's what this book is about. It's about ignoring everybody and 39 other keys to creativity. Any questions there? Does that sound like an interesting book for you? I don't know.
It reminds me of the pet rock phase where people buy a lot of pet rocks and decorate them and give them houses and whatever. I mean, these guys is making like millions of dollars in selling pet rocks. And so like I said, no one would ever would think that would work or that's something that they should be doing, but that's what they did. And they quite had a good run.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, who knows what they've done afterwards, right? Like, that's maybe they've gone on to continue to live their, well, we'll get into the reflection, but that's a good segue into the reflection title of this one, which is Meaning Scales. So it doesn't have to make sense, but meaning will scale. I started off this reflection by talking about like your magical learning project in particular. It makes zero sense from an outsider's perspective. We don't talk about this a lot, but technically have like kind of a highly sought after job. I work at one of the world's routinely one of the top 2 or 3 places to work in the world kind of companies. They actually tell us on our first day of orientation that it's actually harder to get a job at Salesforce than it is to get into Harvard, in terms of like the amount of people that apply to the admission rate. This is a pretty highly sought after job, right? You know, in a company that is a really highly sought after company. They have a great culture. They do take care of their people. From an outsider's perspective, this journey probably makes 0 sense. I post these reflections on LinkedIn and on Twitter. I'm sure if I was on the other end of that perspective, you know, talk about assumptions like we talked about, you know, changing your paradigms and everything a couple of reflections back with 7 habits and, you know, the power of a paradigm shift. Like if I was in my own normal paradigm and seeing through the lens that a normal employee probably should at a company like I work at, I mean, I would have to think they'd go like, what the hell is he doing? Like, I don't care if you write every day. I mean, why is he posting these things every single day? Like, is this like a vanity project? What does he hope to get out of this? It's not like a ton of people are engaging with this content. It's not like it even matters, right? Like, what is the point? And that's kind of the whole point of this whole entire book, in my opinion. The truth is, I'm not supposed to be doing any of this stuff. This is not what I don't even get paid for this. You don't get paid for this. There's no outside reward or value out of this other than us having this conversation. And at the end of the day, I don't give a shit. And I know that you don't care either. We don't do this because we get paid. We don't do this because other people value it. We don't do this because any other reason other than this is fun for us. This is things that we care about. And this is things that we value. So, you know, every single day, I've talked about this before, the time commitment into this particular project alone, not even counting in all my other value related activities that I do outside of my work activities. But, you know, just for this project alone, you know, it's probably about an hour and a half a day of reading or audiobook, probably roughly about an hour in the morning, each morning to write a reflection for this whole entire thing. Probably you and I obviously talk about this stuff at night. It was supposed to be a 15 to 20 minute, you know,
it's an hour
podcast. Now. It's an hour. It's an hour now. Yeah, exactly. And we're okay with that because it's fun, right? And then every weekend, you know, I post these things and format them, turn them into blog posts and put them out on schedule them to go out through my like social media scheduler thing to broadcast these out into the world. And you know what? That's a huge commitment. I wake up in the middle of the night very often thinking about what I want to write about the next day. This happened 2 nights ago. I couldn't sleep halfway through the night. And all I could think about was the reflection that I wanted to write about this book that I just finished, which was called The Things They Carried, about this Vietnam former soldier that wrote his feelings. And it reminded me so much of my own story of I Can't Imagine and how, you know, different things that I wanted to apply to that and how I wanted to say and what I wanted to say. It doesn't make any sense, right? To anybody else. Like, how does this even work? For me, it 100% makes sense. I mean, we talk about this all the time. Like, what are the values that are important to me? What is, you know, it's my purpose. It's living for two. And what Amelia taught me to do, of living a life driven by values and to endure and to keep fighting and to do the things that I know that I can do every single day to live a life that she doesn't get to live every single day. And that's my purpose in this world. Not only that, I get to check the box on so many of my values every single day. I wrote them down here in this reflection. You know, one of my values is learn something new every day. Obviously, I read a lot of books and I get to learn a lot of new things. One of my values is to reflect. And that's why I started writing, because I get a chance to reflect through my words and through my writing. Another one is challenge myself, which is pretty big challenge of reading 365 books and writing 365 reflections and turning this into this whole entire project. And it's fun for me to challenge myself. And I do obviously a lot of other things as well. But, you know, in this particular project, that was the idea. Another is to endure. I'm not going to stop this. I mean, there's been times on this project where I'm like, man, like, you know, I look up and, you know, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. There's been times where I like look up and I'm like, shit, like, you know, I still have like 160 books to read and then 160 reflections to write. Like, this is going to take me like a whole another year to do this. And then I think, I don't really care. Have fun. I would do this every day for the rest of my life if I could. You know, this is about balance, is another one of my values. So I don't want to force myself to do stuff or to overextend myself. Nice steady pace and cadence is important here. They get the little things out of it every single day. But at the end of the day, I mean, I'm not worried about that. Like, it sometimes stops me dead in my tracks and I think like, shit, we got a long way to go. But then again, I don't care. Another one is to play, one of my values. And this is a ton of fun for me. And I know you enjoy it as well, but like, this is just fun for me. This isn't work. This is just fun. And the last one is don't do it alone, you know? And obviously I'm not doing this alone because I'm sharing these reflections every single day with a broader audience. I'm writing this with their intention in mind, you know, someday, hopefully somebody else gets some value out of this. Even if they don't, I don't know that I necessarily care, but I want that to happen eventually. I mean, that's not necessarily the goal, but I want it to happen. And then, you know, you and I, like, I mean, I'm not doing this alone. We have different guest visitors to pop into this whole entire thing. We talk about this stuff every single night. Like, it just checks every single box on all of my values. So if you want to know, you know, why I do this project from the start, It's because it has deep meaning to me. Like this every single thing that I do with this project and all the time that gets put into this, every single one of these activities has meaning and has purpose for me personally. It aligns to what matters to me in my life. So that's why the title of this reflection is meaning scales. Like, it doesn't have to make any sense, but meaning will get you to do things for in perpetuity, for forever. Like, to doodle on the back of a business card, forever. Like, if somebody ever finds value to that someday, great. I know that is not the reason why you and I are doing this every single night. It's for our own intrinsic meaning and purpose and aligning to that. But maybe somebody does find value out of this. I don't know. I mean, like, maybe this turns into the next chicken soup for the soul, where I don't care. I mean, I don't know, and I don't really care where this is going. But at the end of the day, like, that's what this is about. Like, people will look at this in the far off distant future. Let's just say it does turn into something like that. They'll go, well, how'd you do that? Well, we didn't care. Like, it was just about the meaning that we were producing every single day. And yes, you look at all the work that went into that, but it didn't matter. It wasn't about that. It was about meaning and meaning scales. So I'll pause there. Love to get your thoughts.
So I think I like to maybe rephrase what you said about you don't care. You just don't care if people care.
Sorry, I care deeply about me. Like,
you just don't care if other people care.
Correct. Yes. Yeah.
Right. And so for me, it's the same sentiment. But the thought that comes to me when you say on this thing is, your reflection title say meaning scales. It doesn't have to make sense. For me, it's not supposed to make sense.
Right.
It's supposed to not make sense.
Only to you. It needs to make deep sense to you, but not to everyone else.
It's supposed to not make sense to people. And the reason for that thought is that we talked about it yesterday, right? We were talking about every individual is unique in a compositions of DNA and all these traits or whatever. There's no single human beings from the beginning of history until now. No one has the same combination of DNA. That means that you and I are both unique, both now and in the past. Right. No one has ever has the same set of DNA, exact same. And we talked about having the forces, the counterbalance that is basically quote unquote a calling of some sort. It compels us to go find that counterbalance. Right. What is it that we need to be doing because we are really adept at that particular thing? Because we're talking about, go back to, very...
You're going to say, famous, hang on. I know what you're going to say. A beaver must dam.
A beaver must dam. It's because a beaver has a pelt that allows it to be waterproof, right? And because they are adept to be at water, they are very good at it. So you look at the beaver perspective, right? It doesn't make sense to a wolf, to a deer, to, say, why are you doing? You're not even catching, you're just swimming in there, right? And so the thing is, it's a calling you do. And so it's not supposed to make sense. If it makes sense to people, then you're doing it wrong, because that means that so backtrack to what I'm going to ask you a question first. Before this journey starts, even before your daughter came into your life, right? What would you say would be the percentage of the things you do because people approve of, and then the percentage of things you do because that's what you think you wanted to do versus what people think they want you to do?
So I would probably say 85% was because I tried to start my own businesses that were aligned with things that I wanted to do. And I still played a lot of tennis, I mean, I knew that I liked to do it, a purpose for me to want to go try to do these certain things. I don't know that it was in alignment per se as much as these things are today. I don't know that I felt it in my core exactly why I do this every single day, but I knew that I liked it. So that was unique, I would say, from that perspective. So I would say 85%, because the rest of the time I was doing what other people wanted me to do.
Right. So the thing is, working at Salesforce, trying to be good at what you do, this is essentially what people are telling you to do.
Right.
They are telling you how to behave, a condition so we're basically a social creature. That means that we have to comply to a society measure to belong into that group. Right. You cannot be extreme and belong. You will be an outcast. That's the way the social creature works. If you do things that is different, right, then they outcast you. You have to behave the same way. You have to say, well, I go to school, I go get a job, I follow instructions, I take orders from my boss, and
Right.
blah blah blah. So all these are acceptable societal cultures, and it's like the etiquette of how you should behave to be able to accept it. Because
I gotta get this out of my head really fast because all I keep thinking about when you just said that was like imagine a school that you go to that's like a school for animals, and you got an elephant, you got a giraffe, you got a lion, you got a beaver, you got a wolf, you got a deer, you got a buffalo, whatever. They're all sitting in a little tiny class together. They're all little tiny chairs, and the teacher walks in and is like, okay, everybody needs to be a sloth. Like that's the values of the school. And then they're like all the animals like look around each other and are like, shit.
But I'm a tiger. I'm a tiger. I can't.
Well,
I can't.
right, exactly. Yeah, and then these poor animals are like, all right, I guess if I gotta do it, I gotta do it. But I'm a beaver.
Yeah, I mean, the tiger said, I have to eat lettuce from now on.
I mean,
I have to eat leaves from now on. It's like,
right.
So the thing is, if you follow society, and exactly that's what you paint a great picture. Just because you think about a tiger or lions or whatever animal is in there, or fish, whatever, you're asking them to be like a sloth.
Right.
Do the same thing, eat the same thing, care about the same thing. Yeah. That's what society wants us to do. And if you do things that make sense to other people, that means you're not being yourself. That means you're doing wrong. The path for you is uniquely yours. You have to find that calling, that counterweight from whatever you're made of. If you're made to be a beaver, you must damn to have a good life. If you don't, whether you can sit and do nothing except eating honey all day long, right? And have everything at your whim, you still would not be fulfilled. You would not love your life. Right. You just would not. Think about it.
If I asked anybody to go do what we are doing right now, let's just go back to the paradigm before Amelia was ever in my life. If somebody came up to me and was like, hey, try to read 365 books, write a reflection, and then go do a podcast for it every single night, like, for the next couple of years, I would be like,
makes no sense.
Makes
no sense to you because yeah, exactly. It makes no sense to you.
What I would be like, hell no, I'm not gonna. I mean, that sounds cool. I like to learn. I like, and I like, have fun conversations and stuff. But I can't do that every night. I can't wake up every single morning and go do that. Like I can't. Like I can't spend 3.5 hours a day. I don't know where I would find that time. I mean, I'd be like, that's impossible. Like, I mean, that makes no sense. I want no part of that. I mean, and I would have meant that sincerely. And I honestly, I don't want anybody to do what we're doing with this either. Like, it's not for every single person. But at the end of the day, it's turning into a really cool project because it matters to us, right? Like somebody might see this and go, that's really cool. I see the journey they've been on. I see how they divided this whole thing up into different values and how it helped them to ideate and imagine and formulate this whole other idea. I see what this all did for them and how it's helping other people and yada yada yada. But like if somebody someday, like I think of like Gary Vaynerchuk or like the Seth I think it's Grogan or whatever his name is, like the Grant Cardones of the world or the Darren Hardys or whatever, like the guys that do their own thing and then they try to tell other people like, hey, just follow this blueprint of like, if you want to be like XYZ.
Yes, go back to what I'm saying. Hey, you have a key, right? It unlocks your house. It doesn't unlock my house.
Exactly.
So don't give me the key. Don't give me a key. So your key doesn't work for me. So don't say, hey, this is the key. Go take this key, go home and put it in and unlock it. And you have treasure beyond your wild imagination. That doesn't work. It's not my key to my lock. It is a key to your house, the key to your lock, right?
Exactly.
So that's the thing is we recognize the importance of everybody that have different values. What is important to them is different from different person to person. And yes, there are certain values and certain people that has cross commonalities, but doesn't mean that they all have. I mean, you and I have cross commonalities. Even for me and you to do these things together, my value and the value I take out of the lesson I learned from here is different than what you are taking out from this.
For sure. I mean,
right? Like, it just happens that this is a commonality that we became together, but our value is completely different. And that's the important aspect that we need to recognize and let people aware that, look, you need to find your path, right? We're here to help you find your path. I'm not telling you follow my path because my path is different from yours. It's
Like,
not
that
the
doesn't make any
same.
sense. Like, it doesn't, you will never see what I've seen, live what I've lived, experience what I've, think the thoughts that I've thought, wake up in the middle of the night, experience. Nobody will write it. I could try to talk about these things. Nobody will ever understand the journey that I've really been on, as much as I try to tell it, to the highest mountains or whatever for the rest of my life. It doesn't matter. Like, it only matters
Mhm.
to me. Like, and that's how it's supposed to be. But like, to your point, like, it's like a platform. I think of like platform revolution, like, this is when somebody does something of meaning, it provides a platform for other people to go, oh, I find meaning in that, in this particular platform. And then the
Mhm.
platform builds and expands. And that's what you're doing with this conversation that we get to have every single night. And then somebody else will find another nugget of value that aligns to them. They can find meaning of this platform that was built from somebody else's meaningful work, and then it continues to grow and grow and scale, and feedback loops. And when you do things that matter and that are meaningful to you, it scales. You build a platform out of it, and then other people can find what they value out of that, and then help to grow that platform and take it to wherever the hell it wants to go. But it's always, at the end of the day, about your own platform building onto other people's platforms, and then finding those interlocking relationships. And that's
Right,
where
right.
meaningful relationships comes in, right? Like,
Right.
that's,
I mean, it's those cross more commonalities that we're talking about. Is you got to find out who you are first, and you got to do the things that doesn't make sense to everybody, but does make sense a whole lot to you. And to
right.
me, that's the only thing that matters in life, in your life, because that matters to you because that's yours. Whatever is matters to me is mine, and you may not understand what I'm doing.
You
That's
can't.
that's
I won't.
okay, right?
Yeah.
You may understand some part of it just because there's some cross commonalities. That's why you understand it, but it's not supposed to make sense to people. If it makes sense to people, that basically you conform to a certain agreeable point of reference, like, hey, everybody become a sloth, right? You have to behave like him, you have to act like him, you have to care what's is important to him or whatever. And to me, if you do that, you are overriding your natural primal instinct to become who you are, who you truly need to be, because there's always a counterbalance that when you are coming to life, right, there is something you must do for you to feel like, hey, it's a worthwhile life for me to do. And when you leave the world, say, hey, I think it's a great day, it's a great life, and I have no regret living. Just like when you work, when you have a very, very productive day, at the end of the day, when you go to sleep like a baby without worry, without, because you knew you did.
Yeah. Feel fulfilled.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you have the best productive day you had.
Right.
Same thing with life. Right? Your whole life, you're doing something, right? Is
Right.
that something that is worthwhile for you? And if so, when you leave life and you leave this earth, right, you have no attachment to any of these because you have done it. You have done what you're supposed to do.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you get to leave a legacy of fulfillment, and that's pretty cool. I mean, that's like something that's uniquely human, create your
Yeah,
art, build your dam, if that's what you do, build your damn dams, see
yeah,
what happens, like, and it'll help somebody somewhere to help, the wolf hunt better because he can, or the bear catch more salmon or whatever, because it, stops them up and they have to jump out of the water to get over the dam or whatever. I mean, I don't know. Like it's funny because, like, meaning, going back to the whole idea of meaning scales, like if a beaver didn't do that constantly over and over and over again, like the California would look like California, right? Like, you get rid of them and now it's a desert,
right.
basically, and it's dry as hell. Nobody understands why these beavers did what they did, but when they did it, it scaled to the point in time where it became evident what the meaningful work was that they were creating and how everybody could benefit from that. But when you take it away from them and you're like, sorry, you gotta be a sloth.
Thing is,
Like,
you can't do you can't build your dam because I don't see any value in it. I don't.
right,
It doesn't make sense to me. You
right,
removed it, and then all these trick of the butterfly effects of creating this desert in the middle
exactly,
of
yeah.
California. It's like, okay, I think I did a big boo boo there. Right? The
Like,
thing is,
because
what I
we had
saw
to pick it.
this little this animal doing this thing is like, you're wasting my water, you're wasting my wood, right? It makes no
Yeah.
sense to me. Well, I was so short-sighted,
Right,
to say
right.
the least. And that's the beauty of it. You gotta be yourself. You gotta do what you are called to do. Follow your calling, because that's the only way for you to have an enjoyable, meaningful work, meaningful relationship, at the end of the day, meaningful life. And that's, to me, that's the only two things you can do to
I mean,
have the life that you want.
do what the title says, ignore everybody, right?
Ignore
Like,
our
I mean,
body.
I couldn't have generated this project if I was doing what other people wanted me to do. Like, it just wouldn't be possible. So, like, just do what your heart tells you to do, and do what your mind and your values and your alignment, your purpose, everything all aligned together tells you to go, compels you to go do. It just manifests itself. Now, the one thing I will say is, you did bring up a good point about humans being social creatures, right? So we haven't talked about this reflection yet, but we'll get there eventually with the book of The Righteous Mind. And it reminds me of that reflection I wrote, which was 90% B, or 90% chimp and 10% B. We can't forget about that 10% of us that is called to want to be that social creature, because that also is a differentiator for humanity. Like if the beavers were living their best beaver life, but they didn't have that community sense, which they don't, that's why humans are who humans are. So like it's that 10% that separates us from the chimpanzee of that social order that we all can collectively come together, that does make us all thrive even better. So I don't want to forget that, because that's a big part of Clubany, is giving people a
because
platform.
Reflection for the other book, but we are human creatures no matter what. Because I'm asking you the same question I asked before. If you make $100 billion trillion and you can't tell anyone, how would that make you feel?
I mean, I guess what's the point? I don't know.
That's my point. Is we are compelled to be in a community. We cannot. That's part of our evolution. We became who we are because of that. So that aspect of being communal makes us better than the fastest cheetah, better than the strongest mammoth. Okay.
Right.
You think about it. We are this creature that can defend.
We're middle of the pack at best.
Aspect of having the ability to work together in a communal sense, that make us the apex animal in this kingdom. Right. And so that allows us to grow our brain, because that's just one of the. I'm not saying that's all the aspect, but social is one of the aspects that make us who we are today. Right. So that including some other aspect to make us, which separate us from the bees and the other communal creatures, but we are that, and so we cannot get rid of it. We're conditioned for that. So that's why I'm saying Clubany has to have these community to support you, because that's why we sense a feeling of belonging, and that makes us be creative, be more adventurous, be more risk taker, be more ourselves, be unique, because we need that to be attached to that community that supports and accepts us rather than to outcast you.
Right. We want that community to accept us, our 90% chimp, the individual artistic creativity side of everything.
Yes.
But we still want a community to belong to, which is exactly the idea behind meaningful work and meaningful relationships and Clubany in general. Like that's really where a lot of this eventually goes to, and a lot of where the thought process and the ideation and imagination and understanding what we want to do and what we want to build in this universe that we're creating is to support our meaning scales 90% chimp, while giving people that 10% community still to be able to feel supported and feel aligned. So, I mean, that reflection is half complete, right? Because meaning does scale. Scale for what? The community matters. Who cares if we did all this stuff for my own self, if we couldn't share it with other people? I don't know that this would be as meaningful. One of my core values is don't do it alone. Like I have this inherent desire to want to share and to want to do this with other people and to want to connect. It wouldn't be as fulfilling for me if it was
right. And you found that yourself firsthand when you start to video this reflection. It's awful. This is not as fun.
Not at all.
You're reflecting on the lessons you've learned, and you talk to a video camera. The only difference is you're talking to me now instead of the camera.
True. And
so that's a big difference. But think about it. I mean,
it's a huge
tell me
difference.
Your experience. Would you rather talk to me about the lessons you learned, or you want to talk to a camera about the lessons you learned?
No, it's boring because there's no
exactly.
There's no interaction. It's like just read the freaking blog. Like I mean, like if you want to hear my thoughts, like, and you just want to hear me read it, like I'm not some, I don't have like a James Earl Jones voice or like a Samuel L. Jackson voice or something where it's like my voice alone is compelling enough for somebody to want to listen to the words that come out of my mouth. Like, I mean, it would just be annoying. It'd be just a dude talking to himself in a room, and then broadcasting that on YouTube. Like, I mean, like that's not like, that's not fun for me. And one of my core values is to play and have some fun, and
not fun for you and not fun for the audience either.
Exactly. Like this, I mean, I don't know if anybody's ever going to watch these videos, but at least they're fun. At least there's life behind it. There's entertainment, there's joy, there's the conversation.
There's humanity.
Yeah, exactly.
right?
Like,
We're not rehearsing. We are who we are, right?
right.
And to me, that's as authentic as you can be. And so to me, people are drawn to authenticity, right? If I
Agree.
stage something or whatever, then it's only fun and novel at first, but it doesn't keep you wanting to watch it, because the thing is you're watching a person. You because
Some
actually what I'm
talk.
saying in the beginning is we are so adept at being social. I mean that we are very good at picking up social signals, social cues from
Right.
other people. And because of that, we are able to reflect and put ourselves in the other person's shoes, right? And so that makes us one, because that's how we become one with the universe, with the race, with human race.
Yeah.
Is we are, because like I can tell with subtle cues about whether you're mad or you're sad or you're excited or whatever. And I feel them. I feel them. I mean, the thing is, if you're mad, I feel frustrated, right? And so that is one of the social cue of being a social creature. And we are a very, very much a social creature. And to me, like I say, people may say you're 10% B, but I think people are 90% B now. But I would want people to reverse that. 90% chimp, do things on your own, but have the 10% to have the stability and the support, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But like, without the company directions, we are basically 90% B, because we're just doing whatever people tell us to do, whatever my mom tells me, whatever my dad tells
Right.
me, whatever my aunts, my uncle, my neighbor, whatever. They tell me, hey, you should do this. You're good at shoveling snow. Go shovel snow. You be a snow shoveler. Like, okay, I go shovel
Right.
snow. Or go dig a hole, plant some trees. Oh, hey, you're a good
Yeah.
gardener. Or you're a good handyman. Go fix some stuff. Whatever. I mean, they tells me what to do all the time, and I see that all over the place. I sense that's how people take a profession or decide what to do in their life, and this is basically from the cues of their hierarchy of elders and saying, you.
It's so funny you bring that up, because the book that I'm currently reading right now is The Marshmallow Test by Walter Mischel. That book about the kids when they, it's about delaying gratification and willpower. A lot of stuff that we talked about is, you and I haven't talked about this book, but the past few days, like all I could think of when I was listening to this book was like the opposite of what this book was trying to tell me, because it's basically saying like these kids that demonstrate behaviors of being able to process things, to be able to control their emotions, and to be able to delay gratifications and think about the future, it is better. They're going to be better in society in general by whatever standards that we measure, like SAT scores or whatever. But then I started to think about it. I'm like, are we really just training them to do what we want them to do better? Like exactly what we're talking about, be a sloth, like, and you're like sucking the will out of
right,
these
because
kids.
you go to a class and everybody said you have to be a sloth, and the tiger could not adhere to being a sloth, then the tiger has an F.
And the tiger has
because
ADHD
thing
now,
is that
the tiger gets kicked out of society.
Yes,
and they're like, this poor damn tiger, like literally we need to give him drugs because he's he needs to be on Ritalin because he can't control himself like a sloth should in the class, and you're like yeah, no shit, he's a fucking tiger. Like,
a cheetah. Why are you moving so fast?
Yeah, you put him in a cage, like he's like,
right, it's F, right? It's like, and that's the thing, is we are basically trying to devise the test that works for us.
We want them to prove that we can teach them all to be bees, like that we can all do
right.
exactly
So
what we're told to do.
all these tests for me, that's how I look. That's how I see it. You're asking a cheetah to say, hey, you gotta move slowly. You should move as slow as a sloth to get an A, right? And that's hey, you are very good. You are very, very good, right? And if you like so fast and you jerk, oh no, you fail. You fail so easy. You're so dumb, right?
This is gonna be my reflection for sure for this book, by the way, just so you know. So we'll be able to go deeper into this, but really, what I want people to do with this Marshmallow Test book, and when it comes to like meaning scales and things like that, right? Like if I'm a tiger and I get sat down in a chair, and they give me a marshmallow or whatever they give me, like I want to be able to say, oh yeah, if that marshmallow for whatever weird reason, activity, eating that marshmallow aligns to my values. Let's just say I'm on my rest day, because I'm giving my body rest, and I'm like, yeah, it's my rest day. I get to eat crap food during my rest day. I'm eating it right away. I don't care, because it made sense to me to go eat it, because this is me being me, living my values. Now, like if somebody was like, oh, well, you're gonna fail the rest of life, and I'm like, no, there's a reason why I just ate that marshmallow really fast. It's cheat day. Give me another one, fine, and I'll eat it again really fast. And give me another one, I'll eat it again really fast. It's my cheat day. It's my rest day.
And to me, that's a key. It's not about, okay, did you eat it?
Right.
or had you
Did
delayed.
you have
It's
a reason
about
why?
why did you do it?
Exactly. Yeah, that's
Exactly.
what
So
it's really about.
right, because at the end of the day, it's like, well, okay, if you can delay your gratification, you're gonna have a better life and you better whatever SAT or whatever. It's like, well, the thing is, the tiger is adhering to the sloth code, right?
Yeah.
Then if he adhere to it, then he become very, very good, quote unquote, in life. And so
right.
to me, imagine a
Right.
tiger's life to be, hey, I'm really good at this, right? They tested me and I'm like,
really good at being a sloth.
it's not, right? And from our perspective, it's like, well, you're gonna have a miserable existence.
Yeah, I mean, this poor guy, all his whole life is going to be chasing ballot. The author talked about some of these kids didn't even eat the cookies and the marshmallows they were given. They put them in a little baggie because they went home and they showed their mom and dad, like, look what I did. I was able to restrain myself, and here's what I want. Here's my prize, And I'm sure their parents were like, oh my God, way to go! Like, I have a kid that can be a sloth, even though it's a tiger, but like that's what I'm going to think these days. But now, if you can be really, really, really smart, this is when the smartest of the smartest people will come into play, where they can say, I'm not going to eat any of these cookies. I don't care, because this isn't aligned with my diet. Health is important to me, and like, cookies don't align. I'm just not going to do it. I don't care how long this test is going to go on. I can fast for 30 days, if you need, or something along those lines, because you know why? Because eating this cookie, I don't have a why behind doing it. Now, or vice versa example that I showed, I give my body and my mind a day to rest from physical exertion that I put it through and living my values every single day. I don't really care. On certain days, I'll just eat whatever the hell I want to eat.
Exactly.
Like, you put a marshmallow in front of me, and I'm gonna eat the freaking marshmallow.
No way.
Exactly.
So and then you say, hey, this test tells me that you failed.
Yeah, I mean, so you really are failing. I mean, you're succeeding at complying with what other people want you to do. But once again,
and that's so sad, right? That's so sad, right? It's the saddest existence I've ever seen, just because, I mean, this is so great of a imagery of having a classroom full of different animals and having it like, hey, everybody needs to be
sloth values up on the board. Everybody needs to be a bee here.
Right.
This is the values of the bee. What's funny is because like that's really how companies basically work, right? You walk in there every single day and you have cheetahs and leopards and alligators and all these people that are coming into this office, and they're like, okay, guys,
hey, not so fast, slow down, slow down.
Here's the bee culture. Do this, and this is what you do in the bee culture. And if you don't do that, then
that's why people hate the job.
Exactly. So I mean, delayed gratification, guys. We'll pay you this money if you guys are willing to sacrifice and work hard and grit and endure and all this other shit that you guys don't really care about. It kind of breaks your heart sometimes, but it doesn't have to be that way. Like, as the point, we can take the good values of being a bee, and we can take the good values of scaling for one individual person, and we can combine it together, and then you can have clubbing. And that's
right. But the thing is, you think about it, I think it's better for you to be individual, because look at the beavers, for example. If you say, the beaver, you need to behave and be like everybody else, then I mean, you would have deserts everywhere, because they're not doing their part to propagate the proper process of cycles. The nature has I guess combined in terms of making this an ecosystem.
Well, when you let everybody do, exactly, that was the word I was going to say, is ecosystem, is when you let everybody do what they're designed to do, and what in their purpose and their meaning, and the meaning that doesn't scale for other people, then an ecosystem develops. That's how you develop an ecosystem.
Yes.
If you just want a culture and you just want to be a beehive, you can be a beehive. That's fine. I mean, you can do that all day long at a company or something along those lines, and you can be pretty successful doing that. But if you want to build an ecosystem, you got to let people be themselves in there and build their own platforms that other people can attach to and build off of, and create this mega amazing, beautiful piece of art that nobody saw coming, right? That's when things that nobody sees coming comes, is when you let people scale their meaning, help each other to do it. Then you get an ecosystem. That's exactly the word, is ecosystem. I love it. Awesome. All right. Any final thoughts for this one? That was a fun conversation.
And you got to be yourself. I mean, that's the best way to live life. Think about it, ponder it, what's important to you. Have a life that is worth living, or making a bunch of money, but at the end of the day, no one cares about it.
Yeah, but being a bee, being 100% a bee, or a sloth, or whatever it is. So the question that we can leave for everybody is, what's something that you do that makes no sense to anyone else but yourself? And that's probably the place that I would start if you're looking for something to scale. Really unpack that, figure out what those values are, of why you really value those activities. And that's probably the best place to start, to be honest with you. So
I agree.
Drop it in the comments and let us know what you guys think, and we'll see you all tomorrow.
See you. Bye.